you're lovely. My gosh, it's been so long since I've been to one of these, and it's always a reminder of like who your sort of bigger family are. I know that everyone's not here for me by any means, but it's really nice to see everyone. And yes, it's bloody chilly. So, and this is my first time in Manchester.
Really?
Yeah, I've never been here before. So, yeah, arrived last night. So I haven't even seen it. This is my introduction.
I mean, it's not always this cold, but it's definitely wet and windy, like 24/7. So this is a traditional winter in Manchester. Now, you're accustomed to the rain, obviously through Underworld. That was an incredible experience, a massive franchise to be a part of. What was it like joining that franchise in the third film? It was a prequel, and you carried that film alongside some absolutely amazing actors, such as Bill Nighy.
Oh my God. I mean, you know what? If anyone ever asks me, which film of yours should I watch? I say none, except Underworld. And the reason is because of Bill Nighy, the beautiful, amazing, wonderful Bill Nighy, and Michael Sheen. And also the elements, corsets, horses, fangs, period drama, really, Romeo and Juliet love story, werewolves. I mean, there was nothing not to love about it. I would do that all my life. And if anyone says, what's your ultimate? When I was doing those films, everyone said, aren't you concerned that you'll get typecast? And I was like, if it's this on repeat again and again, I'll be delighted. So, no, it was an amazing. We shot it in New Zealand, and I did all my own horse stunts and all my own sword fighting and all the wire work, and like you said, in the rain. Yeah. So I mean, that outfit, which was the sort of, I think it became quite well known, was a one piece. A lot of people don't realize it was latex and lambskin and tiny chain mail, and it was a one piece that had a zip, and we were doing this wire work in the rain with contact lenses, spinning around with swords, and it was a night shoot. So literally all night in this dripping wet one piece. You can imagine going to the bathroom was a Herculean feat. I got very close with my costume designer.
Well, we had The Lost Boys here, which obviously is a classic vampire film, and they've always spoke about how difficult it was filming with the contact lenses. Now they're going to be like nothing compared to what you did, because you had the contact lenses in with the rain, and I heard that they kept going to like the back of your eyelid as well. So you're having to act as well with trying to pull the contact lens in and trying to get the rain out your eye as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just silly business, really, because you also have to look really serious. Yeah. That scene was, a Mexican standoff between daughter and father, and it was, to the death. Yeah. And you've got contact lenses rolling back, you're freezing cold, you're sopping wet. So all the things that make you just want to get in a bath and be wrapped up in a duvet. And then you've got to sell it on top of that, and you've got somebody popping in every 5 minutes and you have literally a contact lens expert who's just there on standby 24/7 to rearrange your contact lenses. So that becomes the main faff above everything, and the acting and everything else almost becomes secondary. It's like, keep your bloody eyes in.
And I know Bill Nighy was key to being a part of the project, and Michael Sheen as well. But Bill, you go head to head with him as an adversary in a way as well. You're his daughter, but he's trying to stop you from living the life that you want to live and get away from all the family drama that's happening at that time. What was it like going toe to toe with him as an aggressor as well? And did that make you respect him even more as an actor?
Well, he's the antithesis of his character in real life. So, and he's so good at what he does when he does it. But it's fun, Everybody can dig into their own dynamics with their own parents. daughters and mothers, daughters and fathers, mothers and fathers. So you've got your own stories inside, which naturally come to life. But when you have somebody who's so committed and so good, it is really like, it's really like playing tennis with a pro. You show up and you play as well, or you try to play as well as they are. And because he's so caring and because he's got no ego, which is, as we know, a rare commodity in the film industry, he's one of the kindest people. He just takes you under his little vampire wing.
And in comparison to other action projects you've done, there was more CGI in that film, and a lot of it was practical, but some of the werewolf stuff, you'd have guys with like half a werewolf body walking around on set, and then others you had to imagine that the werewolves were there. So what was it like trying to imagine as an actor? Because sci-fi as a genre, that is using your imagination for 80% of filmmaking. For your respect, that wasn't as much, but do you find it easy to use your imagination as an actor, seeing there is a werewolf there, but there actually isn't?
Yeah, and I see a lot of actors moaning about that, about green screening or imagining, and I think a huge part of what we are capable of as humans is the power of what we create in our minds. And I think that a lot of what we have in common, what I have in common, I was raised with, and especially my older brother, with wall-to-wall graphic novels. I was weaned on V for Vendetta and the X-Men, and Tank Girl was my absolute #1 hero idol from like age 5. It was in my blood. And so, Labyrinth, The Dark Crystal, that was my escape. That's what saved me when I was a kid. And so I can conjure up anything and make it real, like a little kid can. And I can completely interact with it, because for me, there's no real line between fantasy and reality. It's, for me, there are fairies and goblins and pixies and vampires everywhere, and I can feel them because that's what I choose to engage with. So I find the challenge quite lovely, really. And if I can connect with that and the camera's on me, and the great thing is when you have a DOP, a director of photography, that really gets into your eyes or into your spirit, hopefully that transcends, and that's our job. If you phone it in and you do these big Marvel movies, and a lot of actors complain about the CGI, you're not doing your job. It's my job to go into my little kind of smorgasbord of magic and connect to it so it can go through the screen. And I think it's why a lot of the really big, bombastic Marvel movies are emotionless, because you're not connecting to the magic. And so I actually really enjoy doing that. And, you got these guys walking around on stilts, with half a costume on, and it's great.
How emotional was it for you personally, filming the death scene as well? Because it's saying goodbye to a character, given the nature of the story, it was the rise of the Lycans, so your character's death served the purpose of being the rise of the Lycans and the rise of the story between the vampire and the werewolf war. What was that experience like, saying goodbye to the character?
It was quite traumatic.
It was a very traumatic scene.
I die a lot.
Where does that rank amongst your on-screen deaths?
What's that?
Where does that rank amongst your on-screen deaths?
Where does that rank?
Yeah.
One of the more difficult ones, really, because she doesn't die like a human. Vampires obviously don't die like humans die. And so the idea of what it would feel like, but also she's saying goodbye to the love of her life, who's looking at her.
Yes.
So really it was much more about the pain of leaving her beloved and being taken away. So there was an extraction that was happening, a really cruel, painful extraction. And Michael was so invested. I don't think I've ever seen him that committed. You know, in all the other roles he's played, he was so deeply invested in our relationship that it be a valid love story that anyone who's been in love would know. So I think it was much more about losing that love than and the tragedy of that, the Romeo and Juliet of it, than it was, and also the betrayal of her father. And if you've known anything like that, you know, I think that those elements were really what we were trying to connect to. And then ultimately I just get zapped by the light, and I'm gone.
I mean, you had experience being a master craftsman of the sword because you'd done Doomsday the year before, I believe, was it 2008? And you decapitated someone with a sword in that film. So you were more than ready to take on the world of Underworld. What was that like as an experience in comparison, Doomsday?
Doomsday, the training for Doomsday prepped me for my life. For anything. I can take on anything. If you've seen the gladiatorial scene in Doomsday, where she takes on this like 9-foot, whatever he was with the mask, who was a real person, by the way. That was a real, I did all my own stunts, and that was driving, like doing a 180 handbrake turn in the Bentley, sword fighting, the horse riding. What else was there? I mean, and all the unarmed combat. So it was, we trained in all the different types of martial arts and street fighting to create a style of fighting that was specific to Eden Sinclair. And so then any other film that comes along, whether it's a martial arts movie like Hard Target, they know they can literally phone me up. I don't have to do any rehearsal. We can learn the sequence, and I can pick up the sword or pick up the gun, clear a room if it's like Strike Back, you know, be a head of a special ops unit, or go into a period drama. And so I have to say, the guys that trained me on Doomsday, I was there for 5 months prior to shooting, just training with the guys. And we would just run around South Africa, and it was like having a team of brothers who would just throw shit at me, and I'd had to rough and tumble with them, and it was the best experience, you know, of my life. But it definitely gave me a language with my body where instead of responding with my voice, I would suddenly, like, if somebody annoyed me, I would lift up an elbow and go to, like, smash them in the face. So I had to unlearn Eden Sinclair, literally, because I became like her. Anyone that crossed the line with me, I just want to mess them up. It was just a disaster for a while. But it's all right, she's calmed down now.
You got me nervous for a second. I don't want to cross you today. You're a full-on badass. And what was it like reading the script for that? Because that film has it's like 3 films in one, essentially. You know, you have the pandemic aspect, you have the Mad Max aspect to it, and then you have the medieval aspect as well, where people have started to take over castles as well, and you have duels in a castle sequence as well. So
yeah, it's a mess.
There's a lot going on.
It's a mess.
It's so entertaining, though.
It's really entertaining, and it's really, if you watch it almost like it's a comedy, because it's really funny. It is quite funny. I mean, it's got so many different things going on, and I think the people that appreciate it appreciate the action. They appreciate how outlandish it is. But then I always have to play this straight character, and it has to be plausible. And I think that usually it's men that take on that role. It's, you know, it was quite dicey casting a female in that role. And so when I got the script, it wasn't in great shape. And it had her saying loads of really stupid things. And there's nothing that I cringe more when I see, especially a female trying to say Bruce Willis's lines. It doesn't work. And so when you get a guy who's written a script but has taken little bits of classic films, and you realize that it's kind of written for a guy, as a woman, what I realize, it's much better to do more and say less. So let the attitude speak through your actions. Cut the lines. And it's the reason why, no matter what's going on in the film, Eden comes off as, I hope, just about plausible. Like, she's saving the world from a global pandemic. So, and she's only my size.
You have full-on taken the role of action hero throughout your career now, and you've got a film coming out with Frank Grillo and Robert Patrick, Terminator 2, one of the most iconic villains in the history of cinema. What was it like working with Robert Patrick, and do you remember the first time watching Terminator 2? Because it is probably is the greatest action film of all time. It probably is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that Alien and Blade Runner might be in there, I've got to tell you.
Aliens,
I don't know, Blade Runner kind of is in between, yeah, I mean, I didn't work, Patrick and I didn't have scenes together.
Oh.
Robert Patrick I didn't have scenes together.
Okay.
So I was with Frank Grillo most of the time. But actually, consequently, since Robert Patrick and I share a great passion for animals.
Okay.
And dogs in particular. If anyone knows anything about me, that's my life. So we connect on that stuff. And he's been around for a long time. And he's just another, I just work with John Voight as well. These actors who have been around and they've earned their stripes. You're in a film like Terminator. He's such a beloved character, even though he's obviously really dark. For me, it's very much about who you are as a person, who you are as a gentleman, who you are as a professional. And really, when these men turn up and they're of that level, you just feel that the set has a serenity and that the bar is set. And it really doesn't matter. You can't control the success of the film, but you can control how the day goes. And he's literally an old vet and and that's all I care about. And then the irony is that all these lovely people play these really dark characters, and people meet me and they're like, oh, they think I'm supposed to be some Amazonian. And I'm like, sorry. To upset you.
You mentioned some films there, Blade Runner, Alien, and Aliens. What were the films, and more specifically the action heroes, that inspired you to fully go full-fledged into the genre? Because you have etched your name in history now as a truly great action hero. What were the roles and films that inspired you growing up?
Okay, so when I was growing up, I was watching films in the 80s, and I was really into mythology. To be honest, it was either Beverly Hills Cop, Trading Places, The Dark Crystal on repeat. Action wasn't part of my world. It was part of, I think what happens with people who get cast in women, it's because I think that I was quite a little tough nut. I walk in the room with casting directors, and I think there's an idea that you must love the film, it's your thing, but it really wasn't. I just understood the characters. I understood what the females were going through. I understood, and I understand why women that go into the military, why women that go into really tough roles, usually they're orphans. Lara Croft was one. They're daughters who are trying to prove something to their fathers, which I understand. They're misfits and outcasts of society. They're neither too masculine or feminine. And so really, I think that I carried an attitude because of my own life that casting directors saw. And so for me, it was much more about, the roles to me were like a cathartic journey. I got to play out a lot of my own pain and my own anger towards my life through these women. And I don't really focus on what the film is necessarily. And so I did grow up, like I said, to me, Tank Girl was literally the first character that I remember, and I dressed like her. I shaved my hair, grade 1. I had a long streak out the front of my hair. and I wore the boots, and I took on the attitude because it was the armor that I needed to survive, because I didn't have an easy childhood. And when that was the little kind of persona that I adopted, I think that that's what casting directors saw. And then, Tomb Raider came along, and I had no interest in the computer game, not whatsoever. I connected to the character. I understood Lara Croft, and I wanted to make sure that whoever was going to portray her connected to the integrity of who she was. And so when I saw that going in the direction it was going, which was they didn't care about that. I did. I started seeking out characters who had more integrity, I suppose. Yeah. Or people that cared about the integrity. Producers who cared.
One of your earlier roles, we're going to go all the way back to 1996, a guest role on the bill. That was a long time ago, the year I was born, actually.
That was my first ever job.
Was it your first ever job?
My first ever job.
So, if you could go back to speak to Rhona at that point in her life and say, look, you're going to go and achieve all of this, what would Rhona's reaction be in 1996?
Oh God. Did you say achieve? Well, I don't think that. I mean, I think that I've done some stuff that obviously has been an amazing experience, but I still feel that I would have made different choices. I think I would have been a little bit more selective. I was just honestly so thrilled that anyone would have me on a set, because my own little self-esteem was so low when as a young person is. And I think I would have just said, don't take everything that's offered to you, like Beowulf. I wouldn't have done Beowulf, if I'm going to be honest about it. Amazing working with Christopher Lambert, but that was my next film after The Bill. And my agent said to me, it's going to be a nightmare. You're shooting in Romania. It was -20. It wasn't the greatest production, as some of them aren't. And that was one that I think took me in a direction that it could have, I think, I don't know, it wasn't the best. So I would have just said, just be a bit more selective.
Final one from me. You've got Red Sonja coming out as well, and a few other projects. Just how excited are you to see them come to fruition and get released and see fans' reaction? And have you filmed Red Sonja yet?
Yeah, I'm a cameo in Red Sonja.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's it like being a part of that film and just your other projects that you've got coming out as well?
At this stage, I'm not, I think as everyone knows, once you kind of get past a certain milestone in your life, you put eggs in other baskets, you realign your ducks, you become grateful for different things, and hopefully you have aspirations which fulfill you. And because I've taken a lot of eggs out of that basket, the acting basket, and I run an animal sanctuary now. My love is really my heart. I love going back on a set, because the way the family that is there, the film coming out and the success it does has nothing to do with any of it. And if you hang your hopes on that, you'll always be waiting for something else to validate your life experience. For me, when MJ Bassett, the director of Red Sonja, she was a director of Strike Back, called me up and said, listen, we're shooting Red Sonja. Come and do a wink and a wiggle. We'd love to see you. And it was really about an old friend saying, come and play with us. Come and play with us with our amazing team. It's the crew. It's the Teamsters. It's the grips. For me, I didn't have like a family. When I go to set, I get to play with big kids who've got my back. Some of them are assholes, and some of them are epic. And I find my people, and we have the best time. And I go back to my other life, and I'm able to look at the film industry objectively, like it's an amazing privilege. What the movie does or it doesn't do is none of my business. And you know what? I really don't care. I'm up for the play, the love, the graft, the sweat. Give 150%, say thank you very much, and go home. And if you get the opportunity to do it again, you say thank you very much for inviting me. And for those who don't show up and I think go through that experience, they're missing out on the point. So the girl who played Red Sonja, Matilda Lutz, is a diamond. To work with young actresses who are grateful, who are hardworking, that's what we need more of. That's happy days for me. When you're around people who don't appreciate as much as that girl, and I hope for her that the movie soars because she deserves it. That's the win for me. Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, doing anything, any job in life, doing it for the love of the craft.
Yeah.
Is far better than any reward, because that is the reward, the love of the craft and the gratification for your own hard work. You don't need necessarily the approval of other people for that. It's your own gratification. I
think with anything that we do, we've all got really into sort of validation addiction. Yeah. And, this is an industry that is loaded with ego and narcissism. And if you can step away from it and realize what elements you still love that really fill you in your belly and in your heart, that's your reason to stay in it. And that's my reason. When I left Hollywood, the place physically, because you get caught up in your mind about why you're doing it. And it's always like, did you get the award? Did it get the numbers? What are you being paid? And we get paid, unless you're Angelina Jolie or Julia Roberts, you get paid nothing as a woman in film. You're not doing it for the paycheck. You can barely make ends meet, so that's all an illusion. But being part of that family, when somebody has written some words on a piece of paper, and it started in here, and you get to bring that to life with the grips, the lighting, the sound, the camera, you've got a whole family of people that make those words come to life. That's magic. And if you can connect to that, honestly, it's one of the most magical experiences, and that's what and if people come away and say, thank you, you did a good job, we're really proud of you, that's everything. That's all you want, and hopefully you get the call for another one. Amazing.
Well, that's it from me, guys. Everyone give it up for Rhona. And does anyone have any questions? Because I will get this microphone down to you guys. We've got a mic there, so if anyone wants to ask a question, put your hand up.
Are we on?
Hello.
Hello.
Just say first, thank you for coming today, and you look lovely.
Oh, thank you. As do you. Very smart. Like your waistcoat.
Oh, thanks. For the record, I actually had no idea you were in Tomb Raider. You were a part of Tomb Raider until now, which is quite a surprise. but I could see you playing a live action Lara Croft. I could see it. But my question is, I actually know you from The Last Ship.
Yes.
Which was a tremendous series, FYI. And my question is, what was it like working on that show, actually getting to film on a battleship? And did you have to do any research for the role, things like that?
Thanks for your question. I was the original Lara Croft, the first. And in the words of the Highlander, there can be only one. No, I'm joking. The Last Ship was all shot on a naval destroyer. We worked alongside the real US Navy. My character was not part of the Navy, as you know. She was a virologist and a paleomicrobiologist. So my job was literally researching viruses and vaccines. And I had to work alongside one of America's top virologists. It just so happened that the show, the pilot was shot in 2011. In 2012, the Ebola virus broke out. So everything was happening simultaneously in real time. And I mean, if you recall from the show, everything that comes out of Rachel Scott's mouth is all scientific terminology, of which I'm a complete geek about. And so every word that came out of my mouth, I had to understand what I was saying. And I wanted to make sure that Rachel Scott was the integral heartbeat of that show. Because while you have the Navy in its white suits who are apparently going to save the world, my part was making sure that we had a human being in there. You know, I rebuffed all the costumes. They wanted to change my costumes every week. And I was like, we're on a naval destroyer. They set sail for one mission. She'll have one bag and she'll wear the same clothes. And they were like, but we need your hair to look fabulous and we need you to be, and I was like, I'm not having it. And as a result, my hope was to try to make a character with a pulse who really cared about what she was doing. And so, my relationship to what's going on with the planet now is that she was a really important figure for everything that we're going through now. And I had an idea that we would have gone through what we were going through with our recent pandemic. That wasn't a surprise to me. And so, the idea was to really know what I was talking about. And yeah, I researched the bejesus out of it, and hopefully that shows.
Anybody? Yeah, we got someone at the front there.
Hi, I also loved you in The Last Ship, which I binged during COVID, very appropriate. And my question was, you've talked a lot about the love that you have for your characters, and it seems that sometimes you care about the characters more than the people who wrote them and the ones at the top. You also seem quite confident in voicing your opinions, which I think especially anyone that wants to go into TV and film in any role is quite daunting when you look at that. So where does that confidence come from of being able to say to a costume department, no, this is happening, this is my character? How do you get that confidence and to voice your opinions in such a, really a male-dominated industry?
Hi, first of all. It's interesting that you seem to pick up that I care more about the characters than they do. You have to remember it's a business, right? And so, like the music industry, the film industry is split between pop culture and art. And when one is hired to take on a character and do a job, it's my job to safeguard the integrity of that character. Now, it's never a do or die, it's a collaboration. And if you come with reason, if you have a backup as to why, and it's logical, and you're not dogmatic and belligerent about it, it's all about how you deliver it. And I think the difference between being young and passionate and fiery and aging a little bit and realizing that what you care about is important and you share it as a collaboration, that's where the difference comes, and that's maturity. When I was younger, I might have been like, no, she has to be like this, and I just would have delivered it differently. And as you get older, when you speak your voice, because you come from a place of caring, hopefully it falls on ears that receive it well. The problem is being a single-minded, intelligent female in any industry, when you speak your mind, you're considered to be a noise or difficult. When you're a man and you speak your mind, you're a revelation and you're heartfelt and you care. I mean, that's just the reality. And so what I have found is that if you always go in with a solution, if you always go in as a team player rather than this is about me, that's what makes the difference. And I think that no matter what, you never compromise the integrity of the character for anything. And if it means pissing people off, that's not my problem. Because ultimately, I know that at the end of the day, when the fans give feedback that they loved her and that they respected the fact that I didn't get my cleavage out, even though Michael Bay was like, when are we going to get her in a tight top? I was like, no. When are we going to get her hair curled? I'm like, no. She's been on a bloody ship for months. I'm not going to wear a face full of makeup. And I stood my ground with that. And if it meant that it bothered him, but the fans or whoever's watching that believed in Rachel Scott, I did my job. And if it means that I, annoyed a couple of people, I'll take that on the nose. And it's not about, yes, I suppose there is a confidence, but it's more about an inner integrity that I think that when you tap into that, it will take you where you're supposed to go in life. And you might lose some friends, and you have to be okay with that. I think that's the thing, is being okay with maybe not people pleasing. Because you people please, you abandon yourself. You abandon your truth. And in life, you have to hold on to that light in you, because it's the right thing. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's not always easy, but it's definitely the right path.
So if you're an actor or actress, does that mean you also own the character, or does the company own the character and you just play the character?
They own the character. I mean, if you're talking about, I think what you would be talking about in business terms would be IP, which is known as intellectual property. And so would I be able to take that character and go out into the world and do something else with that character and make money with her? No. I would get sued and taken to court. But in my heart, I own the character. I don't own the character, but in my heart, she will always be mine. So there's two different types of ownership. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it all makes sense.
Okay, good question.
Got time? Oh yeah. Yeah, for two more. Yeah.
What was your favorite line doing anything, like from a movie or from a TV show? What was your favorite line to say?
Oh my good Lord, you're really putting me on the spot. Oh my God. Oh. Well, I can throw, that's a tough one, because I've had a lot of really good one-liners. But I think if any of you have seen Doomsday, there's a scene where I have gone through this huge battle, and I look up and I say, somebody says something like, I think she's lost it. And I said, I tell you what I've lost. I've lost my bloody mind. And that's just one that sticks in my head that people always seem to make memes about, and they... oh God, I've had so many of them. But that's one that comes out at the moment. If there's any movie in particular that you want me to reference, I'll see if I can drag something out of my head. No? Hi.
Hello. You mentioned earlier that you have an animal sanctuary. Could you tell us more about that?
Oh, yeah, thank you for asking about that. Yeah, 7 years ago, I moved to South America, and I started a non-profit rescue and rehabilitation center for horses. So horses that are in the pipeline on the way to slaughter, horses that have come from situations of abuse and neglect. And I work with the government of Uruguay to help reverse and implement bans for a very nasty practice, which is known as blood farming, which is it's a really nasty practice that keeps mares pregnant, and it drains their blood for a hormone that's used for medicines and used for farming, actually. I mean, I don't want to go down that road too much here because it's pretty dark. But I have a website, and it's called The Last Ark Orphanage. So if you Google thelastarkorphanage.com, all of the information is on there. But so we rehabilitate and rewild horses so they live completely free, 400 acres, with their babies. Nothing ever happens to them other than they get to live their life, and they rehabilitate. The idea is in the future that I want to open up spaces so people can come and do trauma rehabilitation. So work with PTSD, work with our own collective trauma as a species, which we all, I think, can agree we have certain amounts of. And horses have an amazing ability to help teach us about our own relationship to our addiction with suffering and subjugation and abuse. And so the idea is to help them be the teachers for us so we can work out some of our own misalignments, let's say. So yeah, check it out. Yeah.
Amazing. That wraps up Rhona's Q&A. Everyone give it up for Rhona.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for turning up.
Really appreciate your time.